Imagine being cast away in a place where, as far as the eye can see, there are only scorching rocks and a salt-heavy sea, no trees, no shade, and not a single drop of fresh water. Could you survive for 6 months with nothing but the weight of your regrets and a diary to keep you company? This is the story of a man the world chose to forget, but whose silent screams still echo through the winds of that desolate island. The year was 1725. In the middle of the vast Atlantic Ocean lay a barren speck of land known as Ascension Island, little more than a landmark for passing ships. It was here that Leendert Hasenbosch, a soldier for the Dutch East India Company, was abandoned. This was no accident. It was a sentence, a punishment that turned a volcanic rock into a living tomb. In today's video, we turn the pages of the haunting diary that became the only witness to his final days. Chapter 1. The Crime and the Volcanic Cave. In the 18th century, the laws of the Dutch Navy were unforgiving. Leendert Hasenbosch, who served as a bookkeeper aboard a ship, was accused of sodomy, a crime considered unpardonable at the time. Instead of a swift execution, he was handed a sentence of marooning. He was to be dropped in a place from which there was no return. On May 5, 1725, as his shipmates prepared to leave him on the shores of Ascension Island, they granted him a few meager items: a worn-out tent, a small supply of water meant to last only a week, some seeds, and most crucially, his diary, a pen, and ink. As the ship vanished over the horizon, Hasenbosch was left standing amidst black volcanic rocks under a relentless sun. At that time, Ascension Island was no paradise. It was a dead island where rain might not fall for years. In those early days, Hasenbosch held onto a sliver of hope, convinced that a passing ship would surely spot him and offer rescue. With a lingering sense of courage, he pitched his tent and wrote in his diary for the first time, "I am here alone, but God is with me." But he had no way of knowing that this island was not just a scenic prison. It was a furnace that would slowly melt away both his sanity and his soul. From the very first day, Hasenbosch began his desperate search for water. But between the jagged stones, he found nothing but the bitter dampness of salt. Chapter 2. The Survival Phase. By the second week, the initial shock of abandonment had transitioned into a mechanical, desperate struggle for life. Ascension Island was a volcanic wasteland. Its ground was covered in jagged clinker and razor-sharp lava rocks that shredded Hasenbosch's boots within days. His most immediate enemy wasn't hunger. It was the unrelenting, salt-heavy heat. When his initial supply of water ran out, the entries in his diary took a darker, more frantic tone. He describes wandering the parched interior of the island, digging frantically into the dry earth with his bare hands, hoping to find a hidden spring. He found none. To survive, he began a gruesome ritual. He caught the green sea turtles that came ashore to lay eggs, drinking their blood to stave off dehydration. He even resorted to drinking his own urine and the blood of booby birds. Yet the thirst remained a constant, throbbing ache in his throat. As the months bled into one another, the physical environment became a secondary threat to the psychological void. Hasenbosch was a man of the 18th century, deeply religious and superstitious. In the absolute silence of the island, the wind howling through volcanic tubes began to sound like voices. He wrote of apparitions, visions of his former shipmates, and spectral figures mocking him from the cliffs. His diary entries from June and July 1725 reveal a man slowly fracturing. He spent hours talking to the ghosts of his past, seeking forgiveness for the sins that had cast him into this purgatory. He tried to plant the seeds he was given, but the volcanic ash offered no life. The sprouts withered under the sun just as his hope began to fail. He was trapped in a cycle of scavenging for turtle meat and huddling in his disintegrating tent, watching the horizon for a sail that never appeared. By August, his ink was running low. His handwriting became a jagged scrawl. He described the island not as a piece of land, but as a living entity that was slowly consuming his mind. The isolation was no longer just a physical state. It was a sensory deprivation that turned his memories into nightmares. He was no longer a sailor or a bookkeeper. He was a ghost haunting a desert in the middle of the ocean. Chapter 3: Rescue and Aftermath. By late September 1725, the diary entries grew sparse, thin, and increasingly detached from reality. Hasenbosch's body was failing him. The diet of turtle blood and raw seabird meat had ravaged his digestive system, and his skin was likely a map of sun blisters and salt sores. His last coherent entry was a plea not for rescue, but for mercy from the divine. In January 1726, nearly 6 months after Hasenbosch was abandoned, a British ship named the James and Mary anchored off the coast of Ascension Island. The crew wasn't looking for a survivor. They were looking for fresh water. Instead, they found something that chilled them to the bone. Tucked away in a shallow cave near the shore, they discovered a tattered tent, a few scattered tools, and a bundle of papers. It was Leendert Hasenbosch's diary. The journal was complete, detailing his descent into madness and his final days of agony. But there was one thing missing: Leendert himself. The British sailors searched the immediate area, but they found no body. No shallow grave, no bones bleached by the sun. It was as if the island had simply swallowed him whole. Some speculate he crawled into a crevice to die, hidden from the world forever. Others believe that in his final delirious moments, driven by an unquenchable thirst, he walked into the crashing waves of the Atlantic, seeking the water that had been denied to him for half a year. The diary was taken back to England and published under the title Sodomy Punished, serving as a grim warning to sailors. While the book became a sensation, the man behind the words remained a ghost. Leendert Hasenbosch's story is more than a tale of survival. It is a haunting reminder of the fragility of the human spirit when stripped of connection. He survived longer than anyone expected in a place that offered nothing but death. His legacy isn't one of heroism, but of a quiet, desperate resilience against the void. Today, Ascension Island is no longer a barren wasteland. It has been terraformed into a green, inhabited outpost. But if you walk along the jagged volcanic shores at dusk, when the wind whistles through the black rocks, it's easy to imagine a lone man sitting by a flickering fire, scratching his last words into a diary by the light of the stars. The man is gone, but his voice, preserved in those weathered pages, remains a testament to the lengths we will go to stay tethered to our humanity, even when the world has turned its back on us.